windy. You want us to even out back here? What do you like?
You guys look great.
Great.
Good. Okay, rolling?
You're all set.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here for this very important celebration of this historical location right in our backyard, right here in Massapequa. I'm Town of Oyster Bay Supervisor Joe Saladino. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by my colleagues in the community, including Councilwoman Laura Meyer, the Massapequa School District Superintendent, Dr. Bill Brennan, the Assistant Superintendent of the school district, Dr. Brian Trapani, and I'm especially pleased to introduce Dr. John DiMarco, whose intrigue of this location and its significance brings us all here today. You know, the history of our community is very important. It's a very old community with a lot of very special history, and so many important people lived in this community, and we go way back hundreds of years. That history has been preserved beautifully by the members of the Massapequa Historical Society. Some of them are with us today, including Denise Strathman, who is the second vice president of the Historical Society. We're also joined by Richard Strathman, Joe Benty, and Kurt Langer. Thank you all for being a part of this, and thank you for what you do each and every day to protect our history in the community. Many on Long Island may be aware that this land was inhabited by Native Americans for thousands of years. In fact, many of our communities are named for or by the respective tribes that once lived here. Just like this spot in Massapequa, where a name meaning large shallow pond comes directly from the Lenape language spoken by the Algonquin civilization that called this area home. This location specifically and uniquely and strategically was an important site known as Fort Massapeag. This area is the only archaeologically documented Native American fort anywhere in Nassau County. It serves a dual purpose, as evidence also tells us that this location was used as a Dutch trading post, with the Dutch being the original Europeans who came to and discovered from the European perspective and named the town of Oyster Bay. They named Oyster Bay after arriving in the community from the North Shore. It was built at the request of Sachem Takapusha for the safety of the Massapequa and European people and to act as a friendly trading post. Even though it was built with European resources, the fort was ultimately under the control of the Algonquin people during the 17th century. So it really served both colonial and indigenous interests. Through artifacts found here, it was also determined that this area likely served as a manufacturing site of wampum, which served as indigenous spiritual objects and also had a role as currency when European metal coinage was scarce. The fort closed in 1664 when the British fleet invaded the area. For many years it remained untouched, although some artifacts were pilfered from the area. Thankfully, through the efforts of local historians and other interested parties, not the least of which are members of the Massapequa Historical Society, our good friends, this land remained generally preserved up until this area was sold to a developer who announced plans for construction of a large residential development known as Harbor Green. On a personal note, I was very blessed to have grown up in Harbor Green, and this served as my elementary school bus stop for Birch Lane School. We had a lot of fun in this area, fishing in the canal nearby, playing sports in the field, and enjoying the bounty of recreation that the town of Oyster Bay and the community is known for. Now, back in the early 1930s, additional artifacts were discovered right here. This led to historians successfully convincing developers to preserve this particular tract of land, as it was clear it held a special place in our history. About 20 years earlier, rather 20 years later, in the early 1950s, the town of Oyster Bay stepped in, agreed to preserve this very property, leading to its purchase in 1958. It was used for many years as a passive park, with many in the community not realizing the amazing historical significance. That changed in 1993 when it was officially designated as a National Historic Landmark. But even then, when a small sign identified this as an Indian fort, it was known as Fort Neck. Not many people here in the neighborhood understood what actually happened here. This was the home of Major Thomas Jones, a whaler in the area. Jones Beach is named after him, as he had his whaling operation, set up right across the bay in the area of the barrier island that today is known as Jones Beach. He was among the first European settlers anywhere on Long Island, and therefore he held a very important significance. As a matter of fact, just 2 blocks over is Cedar Shore Drive. Major Jones lived just a little north here, maybe a quarter of a mile north on Cedar Shore Drive. His home is still there today, with so much history that took place in that house, including the fact that it was used during the Revolutionary War as a prison. Not the kind of prison that you're thinking of. At that time, there was a level of consideration given to those who were of the ruling class, if you will, and they didn't keep people behind bars. The prisoners kept in that house were actually served dinner by the servants who served the family, so it was quite different than what we would imagine today. So this land, so very special, and we really appreciate the Historical Society for all they have done and continue to do to recognize the very important sites of history in our community. We appreciate the Massapequa School District that does an amazing job teaching our young people about our history and ensuring that history stays alive and well in this community and in the region. Dr. DiMarco created a website that bridges us with our past and provides all who go through this area with the story of this very important land. By simply scanning a QR code, anyone passing by now can access historical information that outlines what happened here and how the property came to be. And I know that back in the day, people had no clue of what was coming with technology, and they could reach in their pocket, pull out a device, put it up to a QR code, and get all the history of the community. Quite frankly, when this was my elementary school bus stop, we had no clue of what was coming, and that was just a couple of years ago, sort of. Mr. DiMarco, Dr. DiMarco, John, we appreciate all that you do, not only in the hard work to document and write this book that you've written and create all these accounts and collect all of the very significant items that are so important to our history, but your care, your concern, and your dedication to ensuring that we preserve that history for many generations. So at this time, we're very pleased to hear from Dr. John DiMarco.
Thank you, Supervisor Saladino. Thank you for coming today, folks. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about this site and why I decided to work on this community education project. A few years ago, I was in a career fair over at the Massapequa High School, and I pitched this idea to Supervisor Saladino. I mentioned about this place, and he gladly started to help me. So the town, for the last 100 years, has been working to preserve this spot, literally, and I've documented that over the time to kind of show how there was the stewards of this land, the Lenape Indians, and then the town of Oyster Bay then stewarded this land and protected it. So this park that you see here and the area that we're standing on was a fort that was part of historic contact. It was the first place where indigenous peoples worked together with the Dutch. So Sachem Takapusha and Peter Stuyvesant worked together in this place. And I think it's a real testimonial not only to our history, but the care and concern of the town of Oyster Bay to protect this place. So I thank you all for coming today, and please enjoy the history of this spot, and remember how important history is to the future of not only our children, but ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. John DiMarco. We appreciate that. And as the historians tell us and the documentation proves it, this community was a place where Europeans and the indigenous people got along, worked together, and there was mutual respect. Mutual respect for the indigenous people of the Massapequa area. And that continues on in the name of the community Massapequa, in the identity of the school district with the Massapequa Chiefs. It is and has always been about respect and a very important recognition of those who lived here before us. So keeping the name Massapequa Chiefs, for instance, is a tribute to the native people who lived here. It shows our great respect for our history and the wonderful people who called this land home. At this time, are there any questions from the media or from anyone else?
Obviously, with the 250th anniversary of the birth of the United States this year, would you like to have people come and reflect here at this important site about the history of the indigenous people of Long Island, and also reflect that how they might have been treated unfairly as humans throughout the history of our country? Obviously, our country is full of rich history, things that we should be proud of, but should we also focus on things that maybe we're not so proud of, in order we don't make those same mistakes in the future?
You know, through the history of humanity, there have always been illustrations of situations where people were not treated properly by our standards. And that's gone on for thousands and thousands of years all over the world, but not here in Massapequa and not here in the town of Oyster Bay. So we hold up illustrations of this fort showing what took place here and how people worked together. Think of how it was in the cold winters here, where folks depended on one another for resources. And that's just what took place here in the Massapequa area. This community, these sacred lands, were the place where Europeans and native people helped one another to brave the cold, to share resources, to teach one another what you could learn in order to survive, to build, and to continue. As America celebrates 250 years of all that's been done to show the world how we act and what we do with one another, it's very important to recognize the good examples as well. It's very important to recognize what has taken place here and what continues to take place here. And that's why we're so appreciative of Dr. DiMarco, the Historical Society, the actions of this school district, and their importance and reflection on history. We will continue to teach people about this wonderful fort that looked very much like this illustration right on these lands. We will continue to teach the lessons of the community and all that took place here in Dr. DiMarco's work, the historical work, and the educational work, as well as the partnership with the town of Oyster Bay. This is the people's land. Not only the people today, but the people who have lived here for centuries and centuries. At this time, we're all going to get together as one community and one family, and let's unveil this sign that will be enjoyed for generations, not only for people who visit here, but people who want to research the area through the internet and through technology. Is everybody ready?
We're ready.
Let's do it. Yes. It's also important to say thank you to Dr. John DiMarco. He has donated this sign recognizing the importance of teaching history, recognizing utilizing technology, and we really appreciate you, Dr. DiMarco, as we do everyone who lives here now and who has lived here over the centuries. Sure.
When this site was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1993, there was no evidence of that accomplishment here in Massapequa. So the sign that I created actually comes from the verbiage from that 1993 letter that gave the designation from the Department of Interior of the United States that said that this land would never be desecrated. And then the town followed through and bought these lots and have kept this place, sacred as we said.
Come on in close, everyone. Let's gonna do it. We're gonna open this
Countdown.
and peel it that way. All right. This land has been and will always continue to be very sacred land from the historical standpoint, for our respect for our history and respect for everyone who lived on these lands for centuries. Let's do it. Yeah, you need to stand side by side, not behind each other, otherwise you'll get lost in the photo.
You guys get in the shot?
Yeah. Yeah, we could see the back.
Wow, from bus stop to historical
Historical
site.
landmark.
All right, everybody right here. Stay where you are.
Anyone wants any more pictures?
How about another hand for Dr. DiMarco and all of his great work for the Massapequa Historical Society, for the Massapequa School District and the town of Oyster Bay, and especially the residents of Harbor Green. Let's hear it, folks. Thank you very much. Isn't that cool?
Entirely of your great school district.
This, of course, is
And a student, both of us. Yes.